Welcome to Tapped In. My name is David Figueroa-Martinez of DFM Coaching, and today we're going to be talking about my worst injuries and how I trained around them. Jiu-jitsu is a contact sport. You're going to have a lot of moments where you're going to have nagging injuries, little minor sprains, and then you're going to have a couple of injuries that are a bit more dramatic or a bit more impactful that may even put you off of training for a bit. I have luckily, and I knock on wood, I have luckily not been injured to the point where I needed surgery. I have no major neck injuries. I have no major knee injuries. All my ligaments and bones are still intact. I have never broken anything in my life. I have been incredibly fortunate and lucky. Jiu-jitsu is one of those things where you lean left and you should have leaned right and something pops. It's also one of those things where we have a lot of people on the mats rolling around. Someone could potentially roll into you in a very harmful way, in a way like maybe you post an arm and they roll into your arm and now you need elbow surgery, knee surgery, shoulder surgeries. Like there's a bunch of things that have occurred to training partners of mine. And a lot of it is just happenstance and luck. Something happened that you didn't anticipate and you weren't looking for, and it just happened. And I also think some of this is also potentially genetic. Some people, I've trained with some people who have, they're constantly like getting over something or dealing with something. And I think part of it for me specifically is that I roll really safe, and I roll with safety as my primary goal. And if I get a submission, but it means injuring a partner or injuring myself, I forego the submission. So there's a lot of that in how I apply myself. So I have been both lucky and I have been very technical in my approach to jiu-jitsu, where I have not been injured like that. But I have 3 major injuries that I can remember that shook me in some capacity. The very first one that comes to mind was a high ankle sprain, and I didn't know what to think of it. I was rolling with one of the bishops, and he, if I remember correctly, he was doing a scissor sweep or something around those lines. He's trying to teeter me from side to side motion. And I remember I had my foot planted, but it was planted in such a way that it was carrying most of my weight. So if I had like one knee down and one foot down, sometimes when you sit like that, your weight is on your knee and back leg. I think I had all of my weight on my front leg, which was the foot that was planted on the ground. With my foot planted, I remember he started to take me to the side, and my foot didn't roll. It was just planted in a way that it wasn't budging. It wasn't teetering. It wasn't rolling. It was just firm on the mat. The rest of me went to the side. And I remember hearing this loud pop and thinking, oh, this isn't good. And I remember we both stopped and he was like, dude, are you okay? And I was like, I think so. And I remember finishing out the round. I don't think I rolled the next round, and then class ended. I had a hard time getting to the car. I had a hard time getting out of the car. I had a hard time getting to the house. And I remember I couldn't put a whole lot of weight on it. And anytime I get to the house and my wife sees that I'm injured, she's like, this is not why I sent you to jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, stuff's going to happen. But I remember that evening, I was hopping around. I could not put any weight down. And I wanted to tough it out, just me being me. But then I was like, maybe I should go to the doctor. And she talked me into it, and we go do x-rays, whatnot. Nothing structurally wrong. There's no broken bones or anything, which I was super happy about. But I was on crutches for a bit, and I had to go to work. At the time, there was no remote work, so I had to go to work. And I was hopping around on crutches. It wasn't fun. It wasn't the worst injury I've seen. I was, again, very fortunate that nothing broke. I didn't tear anything. And it was just a high ankle sprain, but it took a while for me to get over. And so then if I remember correctly, I don't think I took any time off. because at the time I was also teaching, and taking time off from teaching means that you're not in and you're not getting paid. So I taped my foot up really well and I trained. Well, in the beginning, I taught. And then when I felt like I was comfortable enough, I started training. The way I trained was it was taped heavily. I didn't allow for any ankle, foot stuff. Don't touch the foot at all. It was a lot of guard play, and it was a lot of, I didn't push very much with that foot. I did not play any top in the early aspects because I couldn't put weight on it much. And it was a lot of me just playing guard, playing from bottom. And I understood that I can't do much from top because that requires me to put weight and maybe even push off of it. And I didn't feel comfortable doing that because it was such a tender early injury that I ended up playing just a ton of guard. The thing you're going to find when you get these injuries and you train through them or around them, they force you to maximize or emphasize other aspects of the game that maybe you don't spend a whole lot of time doing. And in this iteration, it was a lot of guard play. And I played from bottom. I played a lot of escapes. I think I was a purple belt at the time. I think sounds about right. And so I was playing just a lot of inferior bottom guards, and it meant that I was getting smashed. It meant that I was getting dominated in a way because I can't play top game. But I learned how to use the guard a bit better than I would have if I was training 100%. The other injury that I remember was I was doing a knee cut, and I was against, I think, a brown or black belt. And I remember knee cut's my all-time favorite pass. It's the one I've been doing since I was a white belt, and I'm knee cutting, and this gentleman put his hand on the top portion of my head. But it wasn't like the very top. It was more at an angle. And as I wanted to force, this is going to be a lesson of mine, I was trying to force this knee cut, and he was pushing the top of my head, almost like causing my neck to bend. I'm an idiot, and I thought, I can get this. I'll be fine. I don't have a whole lot of major injuries. My body's pretty reliable, and I forced it, and I kept forcing it, and I kept coming forward, and I should have backed up and addressed the post that he had on my head, but I didn't do it. And I remember something sort of giving in my neck, and I can internally hear it. And I remember stopping and then sitting in his half guard because I didn't want to pass anymore, thinking, that is not good. That is not good at all. And you take a physical, mental inventory when stuff happens to you. And I would move my neck. I start moving other things. And I'm like, I feel all right. I think I'm good. We ended up finishing a round. I finished out the class, and I can't remember if either that night or the following morning, I had tingling in my right hand, my thumb, pointer, and I think the middle finger. Thumb and pointer for sure. They felt a little numbness, not completely, but just the touch, the sense of touch wasn't there. And I couldn't grip very well. And I was like, oh, this is not good. And I remember hoping that it would go away pretty soon, and it lingered. So again, I go back to the doctor, and then I get checked out. They do some kind of a scan on my neck because, again, this lingered for a bit. Come to find out, they pointed a few things out. I don't even remember exactly what it was. It ended up just sort of going away, and I haven't had to deal with it again. So I've escaped serious neck injuries. I've escaped serious knee injuries, but at that time, that one actually kind of scared me because I know people who have neck injuries, and training around it is not fun. And I've known people who have not been able to continue training because of the neck injury. So I was really worried. And I remember sending, I think, the results to my dad, and he's like, oh, it means this. And I have, again, not had any issues since recovering. I didn't have to take any PT. It was just time. So when I got back to, again, I was still teaching. When I trained with this, I did not train very hard. I did not train intensely. I did not train anything that would jar my neck. And again, it wasn't to the point where I was scared that I was going to have something permanent. It was just a big concern because I don't get injured seriously very often. So at this stage, when I decided to train, it was with people I knew would keep me safe, people who I knew would take care of me. And because I didn't have a solid gripping sequence, I stopped using gi grips at that time. And I was doing a lot of no gi anyway, so it wasn't like foreign to me. But I used more cupping grips because my right hand grip could not sustain a good pull, and it could not sustain a good, strong, static grip. So I started cupping, and I would cup behind the shoulder, the neck, behind the tricep, elbow area. And so I got around to not using grips in the gi sense, which translated really well in how to control people. I also think that I dropped my weight a bit heavier when I was rolling with people that I was rolling with. Instead of being on top and like pulling with the grips, I used more of my body weight and allowed my body and gravity to control more. I don't remember how long it took me to get over that. Again, I have not had any neck injuries or symptoms since. It just sort of went away. Didn't do any rehab, didn't do anything. Again, incredibly fortunate. My other injury that comes to mind, and this happened to me twice. I was doing, I can't remember the throw, what it's called. It was a throw it's my favorite judo throw. I'm terrible with names, so forgive me. And I was about to hit this throw, and I had been working on it for a while, and I was hitting it on some people. And I hit it on this dude, and there was a moment where he dropped his weight. So it was, I have collar, sleeve, and Yoko Tomonagi. That sound right? I should get a point for that. And I dropped my foot into his hip, and I was trying to make him kind of cartwheel or roll off to my left and drop onto his back. And then I would take mount or side control or whatever it was that would come afterwards. And I remember placing my foot into his stomach, and he dropped his weight, like almost like he's squatting, and the momentum stopped immediately. I should have, again, my fault, should have understood what was going on and said, I'm not going to get this sweep, just play guard. I didn't play guard. I thought for a second, oh, I can force it. And I'm pushing, and he's settled. He's not moving. He's like cement to the ground. My dumbass decides I want to keep pushing. And at one point, again, I felt something internally sort of give. It didn't tear, but I can feel something just sort of go out of where it's supposed to be. I don't know if it was the hip, or I know eventually it was the hip flexor, but it was like this weird like give. It's the weirdest sensation. And I immediately had to stop, and I had to lay there in what felt like 5-10 minutes. I couldn't move. I was in so much pain. And I remember eventually being able to get up, hobble off, and I don't think I went to the doctor for that one, which is dumb on my part. It took a long time, but it eventually healed up. And also, this is right after I turned 40, so it was not a good start. And I remember for that one, I taught through it. I did not train very much. It was just moving in bed was uncomfortable. Like when you decide, I want to move from my left side to my right side, you literally have to use your legs and your core. And your hip flexor, my hip flexor was trash at the time. And just moving to the side was so painful. And I don't think I went to the doctor. I may have. It took me a while to get over. And then once I was recovered and training again, I injured the other hip. Not doing the same thing, but the very but it was the hip flexor again. And I remember, I had just turned 40 and I'm sitting there like, is this my life now? Injuries. So it wasn't the worst thing. It was a confidence deflator, if I can say anything, because again, my body has always been sturdy. I have never had a broken bone. I've never torn anything. I have never hurt to the point where I needed surgery or any of these things. So when I had these back-to-back hip injuries, it was like, dude, is this my life now? I had just turned 40. I've heard all of the stories of, hey, when you get older, everything falls apart. And I was a little nervous about training. Thankfully, since then, I haven't had anything major like that. I've been pretty healthy. I've watched my body a bit more. I stretch a bit more. I've done more strength training. So I'm more cautious of the things that I'm doing. But in every episode of these injuries that I've had, there's always been a major downside, of course. But there's always been these moments where it has settled me and allowed me to train in maybe a very specific way that highlighted something else that I was neglecting. So as much as I hate being injured, and as much as we all hate being off the mats, if we choose to train, we have to train really careful. We have to train in a way that allows us to be healthy, not exacerbate the injury, and just be smart. Don't put this injury and it gets worse and you have to put that on someone else because they were rolling with you, if that makes sense. So I always picked people who were really safe, really conscious of me. And I would tell them ahead of time, hey, I'm dealing with this. And we would roll and they would be nice to me. And I would get some kind of training in, some kind of exercise, and I would feel good. Injuries are not fun. And there's going to be moments where maybe you should not be on the mats at all. If you have those types of injuries, it doesn't mean that you can't come to the gym. It doesn't mean that you can't watch, take notes, perhaps even help with the class if needed. Injuries don't mean that you cannot be part of the community. They're going to change your involvement, but it doesn't mean that you have to stay away from the gym, away from your friends, away from the thing that drives you and gives you passion and energy. You just have to change what you're doing. If you have any questions, please hit me up. Love to take questions, help people out. I'm super active on Threads, dfm.2099. If you want to work with me, private lessons, seminars, group workshops, whatever, dfmcoaching.com, or shoot me a DM. If you like content like this and you would like to get more of it, I highly recommend BJJ Mental Models. It's my favorite by far platform to use for my own growth. I literally pay for it every month. You can use code Figueroa-Martinez, FIGUEROA Martinez, and get a little bit of a discount. Till next time, thank you.